where I'm at, or hike out, or back out, or lay back to a board.
Is that going to keep it from moving? Yeah. So now what we can do is we can take his arm, do that, and we can form. There's another piece of wonderment that costs $1 or two. The cravat, triangular bandage, whatever you want to call it. It's a piece of cloth. But what else could you use if you don't have one? It's ridiculous not to have one. Yeah, you can make this. Tear a bed sheet up. Tear whatever. So, we can take these, and I can unfold this, but what can I do with this? I can form, I can make a sling out of it if I need to, right? Yeah. Now, and we want to keep it up because if we let his arm hang, what's that going to do pain-wise? Blood's going to flow down, so if we keep it elevated, remember our old first aid class, what they said, remember one of the first things before they did tourniquets was direct pressure and elevation, right? We're reducing the blood flow, we're not restricting, we're reducing. And with this, now I can form just a quick little sling, give him support, and I can even bring this out. Fasten this to here. Here, now look at this. Now I'm immobilizing at the shoulder all the way around, tying his arm to himself so his body is acting like an additional splint. Now there's no movement. This arm is protected. I tie this up. How much have I spent? Is that worth $15? Maybe this is how much all this costs? And as small and compact it is, why wouldn't you keep it in an everyday bag?
Hey Chuck, can you do the twist when you're wrapping that? Do the twist to make it a little bit tighter?
You can, but it's not needed because your rigidity is coming from the splint, right? Yeah. And all of this doing is forming the splint in, so it's whole. You don't want it loose, but you don't want it too tight. Exactly. So you can see what this has done. Now, can you buy a commercial sling and all that? You sure can. You sure can. But you can provide this. So this is something, so you're out somewhere, you've got 100 acres, right? You're on the other end, somebody gets hurt, you do this, you can walk them out, ride them out, do whatever, put them on the back of a four-wheeler, tractor, whatever, and this is going to be comfortable. Their arm's not moving around, right? But if you even don't have any of this, you make them the splint. Hold your arm. Do just like it, because guess what they're going to do anyway? They're automatically going to do this because it's going to be the most comfortable right here. So we've provided all this, and obviously it's sloppy because I haven't done, but you make this nice and neat, and you get it to where this is elevated slightly above at an angle, but also where it's comfortable on him. And you can put this up under where it's up. And you see how it's created? It's just a sling and swat, and when you're doing this, you're immobilizing the arm all the way to the body too. So the body is acting as a splint too. It's helping with your mobilization. Make sense? All right. And you can see, this is one I use for training. Somebody's already done this up, but you make that just like that, right? And that's how you can do an arm. Now, what if you want to splint the whole arm? Still do that. You measure it out, right? And you can go all the way up, or you can take two of these, and then you can take this. So let's say you've got this on him, right? And we want to form it. And if you have to, say, oh, I've got it too long, we can fold it down here, but we've got his whole arm, and say for some reason we think there may be an injury right here. We can go all the way up here and see where I've got it formed up onto the shoulder, cupping on the shoulder. So then we wrap this up, and what you can do is you can take another one of these splints and do this. And mobilize this part to his arm and wrap. Or you could just take an ace bandage and wrap it around to where you can immobilize the whole shoulder, everything. And really affix basically a shoulder immobilizer. Alright? So it's very versatile. So what I want to do is I want everybody, number one, just to do this, okay? We've got some extra splints. Partner up. I want you to practice just doing this, and then we're going to do legs. All right? We're going to start with our upper body and go down. But here's something I want to show you real quick. We all know what a C-collar is. And I don't know what don't worry about it. You know what a C-collar is, right? A mobilization collar. This is one. So you can take this, and you know how they're kind of bent with the chin, right? You can bend this out, form it around. Obviously, he's got a hoodie on. You can take this.
Use your tourniquets, hold it in place.
Totally use the tourniquet.
And obviously, we would form this around a little bit better, but you can cup it on the chin, make it more comfortable, even stick a piece of gauze underneath there. Is that going to mobilize his neck if we had to with a spinal injury? Now we don't immobilize, and she can tell you the ER, we're not putting people on backboards and stuff like that. We're still putting C-collars on. If we suspect. So, you're out, somebody falls, something, I don't have a C-collar, which you could get, they're available, you could get one. We're going to work with one here in a minute. But you've got this. So why not carry one or two of these? You know what I mean? They're small, they're cheap, they're easy to use, and if need be, if you're in a situation where you can't get supplies, this is something you don't want to throw away. These are meant to be disposable. Now, as long as there's no blood and stuff on you, you can pretty much disinfect it if you had to use it again. Right? I mean, I wipe these down, with cloth stuff after every class, but if there's no blood and stuff on it, you could use it again if you had to, So it's a versatile piece of equipment. It's made to be disposable. It's made to be thrown away. You can get it in the tactical pool, green, if you want to be stealthy from the ninjas, all right? Orange, whatever. But all of this, it's a versatile piece of equipment, okay? So let's do the arm. Everybody pair up, practice doing that. And the big thing with these are, mold this around. All right, and with this, when you fold it in half, I mean, it's solid. You put it with that ace bandage or gauze wrap or whatever, it's not going to go anywhere. And like I said, wrap it with gauze. If you've got a long journey and you're really worried about it, wrap it with gauze and duct tape it. Duct tape fixes everything. You can't put WD-40 on this, but you can put duct tape.
When I broke my hand a couple years ago, they just did soft cast.
Yeah.
It's
Same thing, isn't it? Same thing. And it's pretty easy. Form it around, and then you're ready to go. And
You
you've
don't
got it
even have
split.
to have the ace bandage, because the gauze is stabilizing.
Yeah, see? Just like what they're practicing with. They're practicing it with gauze. There's some more gauze over here. If you want to practice with a triangular bandage, go ahead. But all of this is something that on the homestead, out anywhere, you're doing something. Why wouldn't you carry one of these with you? And they're sold everywhere. Jake Drum, yes, Jake, I'm giving you a shout out. Drum Emergency Solutions, he sells these, I'm sure. Different places, but buy these. Have them ready. It's something that when you're looking at what do you want to buy, and who was it yesterday was asking me, where do I start? What are the basic things you get? This is one of those basic things. Do you think that would be valuable to you at your house if one of your family members got hurt?
Definitely.
Do you think that's important enough to spend money on? If you had $100, you're going to put towards medical supplies, right? At least get one of those.
Honestly, when I broke my hand, I wouldn't go to the emergency room because
you're
I didn't
shoveling like everybody else.
Yeah, I wanted to wait for the doctor's office to open, so I
Yeah.
didn't have to pay for it.
But having it
If I
splinted,
would've had a splint, yeah.
make it much more comfortable, right?
Cause I never broke a bone, I didn't know,
Sure.
like,
And look what they're doing. They're practicing with the gauze instead of the ace bandage. I want you to do both. And you can see, you can also immobilize it with the gauze. And if you wanted more structure with this, everybody has duct tape.
If you know about my arms are broken, you have to get sponge wrapped.
Yeah, and then you can mobilize it too. And then so you take that, form it up like that. So see the stability, so the arm is not gonna go back and forth. And it just, yeah, swath and sling, yeah. You could tie it, sling it to provide support, tie it again, and then, that way it's tied to the body. It ain't gonna go anywhere.
so.
And you're gonna reduce damage and injury within the bone where that break is, so those ends aren't rubbing together, all right?
Right.
Because that's where the pain comes from.
Yeah.
Someone always told me that, so what can you tell?
Thank you.
I know, if it doesn't hurt, well, I didn't realize that you really, if you don't move it when it's broken, it doesn't hurt. So, I just thought, maybe.
It's the sea collar, it's really important.
Jason, what do you do?
What?
You got two broken arms, dude.
Dana and Jacob give you a sponge bath.
Oh my gosh,
No,
that's
you
awesome.
got,
Getting old sucks, man. That's what happens.
you actually got plenty, actually, you can even just a tad bit, go a little bit tighter, if you want it, it's fine the way you did it. But you could actually pull a tad bit tighter on it and get it pretty tight. He's kind of,
It's not really, like,
he's kind of a wuss, so he may hurt you a little bit.
Might put him in a wheelchair.
you gotta put lotion on this one. He's got soft skin, they ought to touch him.
Did you want it to be?
You're gonna Shelley needs to add for her soap, this was the first day since last week I didn't use her soap, so. And I will say,
That's,
that is good soap.
so fill that now.
There's 3 or 4 splints. Grab that stuff. If you need some more ace wrap or whatever gauze, let me know and I'll give you some. But practice doing it with both.
That's not too tight.
And if you want to, practice affixing a C-collar. Practice, a neck brace
If you have
on
to
each other.
leave somewhere on a 4-wheeler, you're probably in a field or you're probably on a tree line. You're not on paved roads. You're gonna bounce with this. You don't want that arm bouncing real hard. Move it.
Thank you, that can.
So that's why when you're moving the patient, if we package them up, we want to affix that arm to the body, splint it to the body, tie it to the body to prevent and reduce more injury and movement and pain.
Had a bad 4-wheeler. I'll fight you.
You got an ankle injury. We may have to shave the beard as we're working on you.
My wife's never seen my chin.
So that actually brings up a good point. You're trying to treat somebody. What if this is in the way?
Scissors.
So if this scissors, cut it off. They's probably gonna be pissed. So cut it off.
I'd still hug you after I get out of my broken arm.
Yeah, you look like you're getting ready to go into battle like some medieval armor or something.
I need a sword.
Yeah.
Here.
That's probably
No,
not.
that'd be perfect.
So Jason, come over here and show the live what you look like currently.
It's room.
So with this neck brace,
Had a bad sweeping accident.
we don't want to double it up because obviously it's not going to go around. So what we have to do is we're going to put this around. We want to affix it, and you can double it over in the back. But we've got all this. You could do this. You've got scissors. Cut it, right? And what we want to do is you don't want it to choke them, and we want to provide support. So right where the chin's going to be, even if you have to measure it, remember this is pliable. Bend this down, So what do we have now? We have a cup, because you know what they're gonna say? Oh, it's choking me, it's choking me. What do we tell them? If they're talking, are they choking?
No.
Are they breathing?
Yes.
They're talking, exactly. So it may be uncomfortable for them, but that's what we could do. And you're gonna have people, different anatomies. Jason's got a little bit longer of a neck. But we put this around, now we've got effectively a C-collar if we're worried about spinal injuries, right? And we can provide this, even this looks sloppy, but we're obviously gonna form this around. Then you can tape it, do whatever, and now we're protecting that. You've got them splinted everybody's arms, and you may have this. You may have somebody who's fallen, puts their arms out, it's pretty common, and it injures both arms. So, you know, buy these a case full, buy several, whatever. I'm sure, contact Jake. He may be able to do bulk buys with you, stay, he's part of the community, stuff like that, and get that to where you can buy, go in together, do a group buy. And have these, because is this worth having? Are you convinced that would
Yes.
would splint it well?
Yes.
How long does that take? Is that rocket science?
No.
Could you teach your children to do that?
Yes.
Absolutely you can. So, it's, in my opinion, is it not stupid not to have this? We want to be prepared, we
Well,
want to have the right things.
And this is one of those things like the stethoscope that does multiple things. I mean, you need to, there are, a chest seal serves one purpose or whatever,
Yeah.
but that's something that.
But you know what else you can do with a chest seal? It can be a wound covering if you had to be.
Yeah, yeah.
If you want to protect a wound and keep it dry, you can use it. But it's a lot cheaper to buy some transparent dressings than the $15 for the chest seal, right? And yeah, but this is another piece of equipment that serves multiple uses, just like a stethoscope. Not just for you could so many more uses for assessment for a stethoscope, right?
Right.
That's why it's important. That's why I say if you could only buy one first, should I get stethoscope or blood pressure? Stethoscope every time. Because what did we learn yesterday? Can we find out if somebody has a decent blood pressure without using a blood pressure cuff? Yeah, through our assessment tools, right? We won't know the exact blood pressure, but we know it's a good sustaining blood pressure, life-sustaining, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to find out.
I really like the multiple use things though.
Yeah, exactly, because it's worth when you spend the money on it, you're like, hey, I'm getting something,
Yeah.
It's where you buy a chest seal, it's like, well, what's the likelihood of you using one of these on a family member, on your homestead? What if there is a disaster, a big storm, whatever, long-term power outage? Look what happened in North Carolina. How long did they go without power with the substations in Washington State?
Yeah.
Things like that. What if a hurricane hits? I know here in Kentucky, where I'm at, West Virginia and stuff, don't worry about too much, but we had that ice storm a couple years ago.
We have tornadoes.
Yeah, tornadoes, stuff like that. You go out, you may not have to be able to. The hospitals may be affected. You may be on your own for a little bit before you can get help. Wouldn't you want your family member or even yourself to be comfortable? This is going to help, and it protects. We're helping, and we're going to be prepared. Good with the arm? Good with the neck?
Mm-hmm.
All right, come here, Jake. Take the boot. So now we're going to go to the legs. Legs can be tricky. Ankles, tib, fib area, pretty common, right? Especially ankles, right? So, different ways. How do you think we're going to do an ankle? We want to provide support, but what does an ankle do? Do we want to go for the back? Do we want to do for the side? Depends, right? Yeah, we can form it up. So if this is the foot, we can form it up, do the same thing we did with the arm, right? Provide support all the way up to the toes. Or
Open it up and go up each
we can
side.
open it up, go up each side. We provide that support for the ankle, because what's the ankle going to do? on an axis where it goes into, where that bone goes into the foot, kind of like your wrist, right? So it goes like this, so this is your foot, right here's your ankle. It can go back and forth that foot. So if we go up the side to prevent that movement, what are we doing? We're protecting it, right? So we're going to fold up this way, and we want to go as far up as we can. Why?
More stability.
More stability, right? So we go like this, and what we want to do is assess, just like we would do with the hands. How do we assess it's not too tight, we still have circulation? We can go for pulses, the toe, right? Remember our capillary refill? Same thing. That's how we're going to do assessment. After everything's done, we're going to assess it. Hey, do you feel everything? Ask them, pinch it. Do you feel this? Do you feel me pinching your toe? Hand, finger, same thing. Assess that capillary refill, right? Ongoing assessment. We're going to assess our treatment too. Always, right? Just remember the tourniquet when we said those muscles may relax once the adrenaline shows up, wears off. We want to check that tourniquet because those muscles can be very rigid when that injury first happens. That's an automatic response from our nervous system to tense everything up. So as those muscles relax, that tourniquet could loosen up a little bit, right? We might have to return. So we're reassessing our treatment always. So this is one way. This is very common for the ankle to provide support. How do you think we would wrap that?
Should you start at the ankle and go up?
You could, or you start, do a couple turns right at the base of the ankle, go underneath, and then wrap that way, right? Yeah, exactly. It's exactly the same thing. I'm sure people who play sports football, have you ever had an ankle taped up? You watched how they did it. You know how did it give that support? It's the same thing. It's the same thing. So while Chase is laying there being a dummy, practice on him. Take your other boot off, Chase. You did both feet.
Ace has been a klutz. He broke both of his ankles.
I know he's been,
And he is-
stabbed. He's been,
Yeah, I broke one leg already.
The
What's
really,
yeah,
that?
broken a leg.
the really bad thing is that he's stuck with us doctoring him.
That's right.
So I'm dead. Jason's already got the whole dugout back.
Jason's taking your blood
He's got a
pressure.
cracker.
But do you think these are valuable skills?
Yeah.
Do you think this is something you should know, and should learn, and
Oh,
should
yeah.
practice, and know how to do it? How to manipulate this piece of equipment and use it to the best benefit. This is why we learn things like this. Yes, tourniquet use, wound packing, all that, we went over it, we emphasized it, but this is kind of meat and potato stuff that is more likely to happen on your homestead if we don't have modern health care available or it's going to be delayed. This is something we can provide real world care to provide comfort, less damage to our loved ones, right?
So if you get them wrapped up and then like their feet start going numb, you got it too tight, right?
Correct.
And wrap it.
We're gonna check that capillary refill, right? There could be some numbness from what? We break a bone, what happens?
Yeah.
Yeah, from swelling, right? It's gonna swell up. So what else can we give them
You're perfect on that right leg.
on
It's
treatment?
tight and it's stable.
Ibuprofen.
Ibuprofen, why? Why, no, ibuprofen. Why ibuprofen? Why would that be
That helps to
preferred?
reduce swelling.
It's anti-inflammatory also, right? Are we gonna have inflammation?
Yeah.
Probably.
Absolutely with a break. Absolutely. And you know what's worse? A sprain. Okay? A sprain, literally a severe sprain, takes longer to heal and it hurts more than a break.
Oh, it's fine.
Because I told you that story yesterday when I had a severe sprain in my ankle, the doctor flat out, as a paramedic, I heard the papa, oh, it's broken. It's broken. Did the x-ray? No. Doctor, you'd be better off if you did break. It would hurt less and it would heal quicker. And when I did break my ankle, that was the truth. It healed quicker and it hurt less. So what else can we do for a broken bone now that we've got it splintered? What's continued treatment we can do? Ibuprofen because ibuprofen's a what? Anti-inflammatory and a pain reducer, right? But what do we want to ask this person first before we give them any medication?
Are you allergic?
Are you allergic? Exactly, right? Can you take ibuprofen? Do you have anything, has your doctor ever told you because you have bleeding, right? Do you have a problem? Do you take blood thinners, anything like that, whatever content you take? The same stuff that's on the bottle that nobody ever reads, right? But if we're treating somebody we don't know, it's not a family member, we don't know their medical history, it's important we know these things, right? So what else can we now do?
Can you ice it?
Exactly, we're gonna ice it. Why? Ice reduces inflammation. We reduce the inflammation. That swelling's doing what? It's pushing in on nerves, it's pushing in on muscles, it's pushing in on where the point of injury is, right? That inflammation, that fluid that's causing that inflammation around the skin area. So we put that ice because it reduces it also. How long do we want to ice it? 20 minutes. 3 rounds of 20. 20 minutes on, 20 minutes off. 20 minutes on, 20 minutes off, 20 minutes on. Reduce that inflammation.
Why do you on it? Because when I broke mine, I know I did it more than 20 minutes. It's all made to feel better. So is it damage something?
It can. And we want to give it a break because we don't want to cause what? Frostbite. You're exposed to cold, right? Even though you may have a layer, that's why we never put ice directly on skin. Even an ice pack or whatever, we always want a cloth, something like that in between. Whereas this, now, would we want to split it like this with his pants and sock on?
No.
First thing we're going to do is remove the sock. Why?
Well,
You can see the injury. We want to cut and remove everything so we can see the injury. We're down to skin. And also, because his toes are exposed, we can then do what? Reassess that capillary refill, right? And if for some reason Chase decided to paint his toenails, because that's a thing today apparently, fingernails, where do we touch? Yeah, females, painted. Can you see that capillary refill with nail polish on? No. So at the end of the tip, we can do that. And remember, we can do that really anywhere. We can reassess. Remember when we were assessing to see if somebody's cold? You know? Remember when we pushed on their belly to see if that central area is good? It's simple assessment stuff. We don't need all the little tools. We can have this. If you're not carrying this stuff with you, if it's not close by, we can still do a proper assessment. Now do you see what always ties into every bit of treatment we're doing? Assessment. That's why we spend so much time on it. Does it make sense now? I know it's not cool, fun stuff, but do you see it tying in? Makes sense.
what if you got to, are we gonna do like immobilizing the knee?
We can?
For that, would you do a same splint on each side and wrap it?
We can. Absolutely. You can take 2, bring it up, or if it's a knee, we may want to do 3 or 4 sets. 1 up each side, 1 up the back. We could even do 1 up the front. Wrap it real good, do duct tape, we can mobilize that whole leg, can we not?
Leg straight.
Exactly. Make sure the toes are exposed to water. Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, we can do that. But if we have that mid-shaft femur fracture, can a SAM splint help this? Our bone is like probably going to be like this, right? Largest bone in the body, strongest bone in the body. So we think about that, we know that. So mechanism of injury to break that has got to be what? Significant, lots of force. So we also got to look for other injuries, but if we have no other injuries, or the worst injury that we need to treat first, because remember, we're going to triage injuries too. We're going to look, if he's got a mid-shaft femur fracture and on the left leg and a broken ankle on the right, which one goes first? Femur. Then we get that broken ankle. If he's got a small laceration that's oozing blood up there, no worry about it. Is that going to kill him? Is that going to kill him, the broken ankle? No. Is the femur fracture going to kill him? Good. Because that bone moving around, what do we have up high?
Femoral artery.
Right. And what's this going to cause the most pain? He's going to be thrashing around with that femur fracture. But when you bring it back in line, you're going to watch. I mean, it's almost instant when you do it. Okay? Now, one other thing with this. What part of the body have we not addressed that can break? Besides the spine, pelvis, right? So how would we provide support to the pelvic area if we're worried about that? Remember on our assessment when I showed how we assess the point, we do what? Right? So we feel something, structure's not there, pain's not there. Maybe we don't feel a break, but there's a lot of pain right there. Point tenderness upon palpation, right? So what do we do for that? How could we support that?
Wrap it around the waist.
Might take two, right? But we want to at least come to the side on the side now. We're down in the pelvic area, in the pelvic girdle, right? We may take two, but this could probably do it. So how can we provide support for this?
Ace bandage, wrap it up.
Ace bandage, you could do it all the way around, provide that support.
Could you wrap it around like a harness?
Nope.
Don't
Nope,
do that?
all the way around.
Just all the way around?
All the way around, we will provide. You might be able to, after that, provide that initial support. The other thing we can use is our cravat. You can take a cravat, triangular bandage, fold it up, and tie it. Tie that around. Years ago, before they had, and Sam actually makes a pelvic stabilizer. Yeah, there are pelvic girdle stabilizers that you can buy commercially made, but old school, when I started in EMS, we were using this. We were tying blankets around. Then it was Sam splints when we started carrying different things to come up with, and Sam actually makes a bigger splint that can go around. There's also splint kits you can get. There are soft splints we carried that had a pelvic stabilizer, but you could form one through this, all right? So, Chase, lay down, you got a broken pelvis. Now, how are we going to get this on him? If he's laying down, all my pelvis is broken. We did our assessment like we practiced yesterday, right? We did the push in and out. We suspect there's a pelvic injury. How are we going to put this on him?
You roll it on the side?
We're going to roll him on his side. Somebody's going to protect his spine just in case. You can get one person here if you've got help, one person on the legs, 1, 2, 3, do. Slide that under him, and you're going to maneuver. But I want you to do this with him laying down because I want you to see how difficult and move it around because this is dead weight, right? And he's not going to want to move because why? That shit hurts, right? So practice it with, and you tell me, figure it out. Do some problem solving. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I've showed you the basics. Now you all figure it out and what you think is going to work because this is what's going to happen, right?
And then on the count of 3, I'm gonna have to.
Whoever's at the head is going to do the count.
Okay, we're gonna roll like a log on my count. 3, 2, 1, roll. Okay, 3, 2, 1, pull back. Okay, I should be able to slide that in.
Ain't gonna be easy. Is it?
Especially if it's over screaming all the time.
What if we were rolling that
And
way?
then we already got that, we don't need to roll it out anymore. Go ahead, do another Sam splint, and pull it down and connect it.
And or you can roll them like you were talking, Jason, if you want to roll them again. But remember, with the pelvis, the more we move them, what's the chance of? Right, more injury to those bones. Right, there's always that chance.
The other thing I noticed is the first one that we put on, the backing of that is sticking to the clothing more than the Sam splint does. So
So now we've got to get that cravat or ace bandage on. So what you could do is think about taking it. So not rolling him underneath the legs, working it way up, and just kind of shimmying it up around where you could do. You might have to roll him to maneuver him again, but this is a real work thing. The other thing about your splint, where's this pelvis at?
It's like right here.
There you go. You want it a little exactly. Just think about it, and everybody's seen it, that picture of a skeleton, right? Where those bones are, and imagine that skeleton right here like there's an overlay over the patient you're doing. So which one do you think would be easier in this case
Y'all
to
are
do?
figuring out the hard part, crapping pockets are a pain.
Mm-hmm.
Since they're stuck right there at the bottom. They got
No,
enough.
it's on, I think it's on.
What do you think would be easier to use in a situation like this?
What?
This, other than an ace bandage?
Duct tape.
You put that cravat and work it up a way around them, right? And you
Triangle
can just tie it.
bandage. Big triangle.
Your triangle bandage, because now you've got to take that ace bandage. What do you have to do?
Wrap it around.
Kind of hard to do with somebody laying on the ground. We don't want to move them because we want to protect that injury, right?
Right.
See what I mean?
Gotcha.
Again, multiple uses, right? At the most, what are these? $2? $2. I'm sure Jake has a bunch. Yes,
Definitely from State Farm.
Jake Drum from State Farm.
All right, Chase, we're done playing with Winger.
Gone.
Sorry about your nose, buddy.
You already got the phone dug, I'm glad we're fine.
Femurs, in bad shape.
So, what do you think? Important information?
Yeah.
It's simple information.
Is this stuff you've been taught before?
No.
This level?
No.
Getting your money's worth? Go on.
I
Alright,
got my money's worth, so I got to let you chase his leg.
so what I want you to do now is practice on the legs. I know you've done stuff. Practice a full leg. I want you to play with these, okay? Do problem solving with these. Take these things. What can I do with it? How can I do it? Because you know all the different ways. You can get on Sam's website. They'll have a million different ways. You know how they found these out? Somebody was going through, they had the basics of this, and then somebody was going through, oh, I found out with this, I did this, and they sent a picture. Oh, that's a great idea. You may come up with something now when they use for a Sam split, nobody's thought of.
So I was thinking that, like, if he's laying on his back,
Mm-hmm.
and we're trying to splint the entire leg, how could I possibly slide one of these under with the full length and to help?
Is that
pull
something
up?
you want to do for real when somebody's hurt? Or when do you want to do that? When do you want to know how to do it? What's going to work best?
I wanna know now so I can put it into
Lay down,
action,
Jake.
right?
That's why I want you to do the hands-on. That's why I want you to
Dana,
try
you gonna take the whole
because
leg and like put one on each side?
What's that?
How are you gonna do it?
Well, I'm thinking through this, so obviously.
is there a wrong way to do it? Sort of, but if you use 2 or 3 Sam splints to immobilize a leg, a full leg, is it wrong? If it doesn't involve, maybe it's his knee and his tib fib, but we want to immobilize the whole leg. Why? Because it provides that structure, right? That immobilization. So that's what we want to do because it may not involve his femur or a hip or a pelvis, right? But what we just did with that pelvis immobilization, what happens to elderly people when they fall? What do they do a lot?
Okay, hip.
Break a hip.
Yeah.
You think that would help? Grandmother, elderly family member, something like that? Yeah. That's why we want to do this now. That's why we want to get the hands on now. So we know how to do it when the real thing, because you want to be sitting there thinking, well, how would I do this?
It's
And the thing is, you're not gonna over mobilize really.
Not really, no.
I mean,
Not really, no. I mean, immobilizing a full leg is tricky with limited resources. And that's what's going to happen, right? Are you going to have a full splint kit? You might. Jason might. I mean, he's
We're gonna slide.
damn near got a hospital
Okay.
now. But, you know, when you do this stuff, you're going to have limited resources and limited help. So figure this stuff out now. Realistically, who are you going to have at your house? If you're going to stay in and there's a disaster, a storm, whatever the case is, another vid scare, whatever the thing is, and you're in a home and you're going to have to take care of some stuff, think about what your true resources are, what you really have to work with, and how you're going to do it and make it work.
Okay, so.
In worst case, you use 3 splints and it looks funny. When your buddy looks at you, he's like, it's funny as hell looking and y'all laugh about it, but he feels better. I mean, that's worst case in my mind.
Because in real life world, you do this and you go to the hospitals, they're used to seeing Sam splints. EMS uses them everywhere. Why?
Okay.
They're disposable. It used to, we had these splints that were kind of semi-rigid splints, but then we have to go back and
So
retrieve
like another-
equipment, and we're gonna have to clean it. You know what the ER does with that? And then the ER has to put it in a place where it stores. You know what they do with those?
Chuck 'em.
Right in the trash.
Is that what like a traction splint is that has, it's like metal tubes and you put it, I got a bunch of those and I bought the fire department out, like in an auction.
You got traction splints? You're well ahead 98% of America.
Yeah.
I've got two sitting right there. We're gonna play with that. The reason I show you those is because when we are gathering supplies and we are doing those things.
Oh, okay, that's what that. Okay.
Jake's one step short of.
This is a traction splint. You've probably got some bigger ones, right?
Mine are big. That's
Yeah,
why I didn't
yeah.
know they were the same
This is
thing.
the exact same thing, does the same thing in a compact little thing. So if you're storing for preps and your split, $400, $500, $600 that you have. That's what we had on ambulances. That's what you'll see in hospitals. This split now being carried a lot on ambulances, and especially people who wilderness, things like that, wilderness medics, even on helicopters, things like that, because it's small, it's compact, it's easy. Wouldn't you rather want to store this than one of those big splits? Because the big splint he has stands up like this. It's metal poles. It's about like this. It has webbing that goes through that you rest the leg on, and it has an ankle hitch, and you crank it. This all does the exact same thing.
But that would be perfectly, what Jake's got would be perfect if it's sitting in your clinic.
Sure.
Where space is not an
But
issue.
why not even this?
Yeah.
So
That's the same
honestly,
thing.
I mean, yeah, you should watch me put municipalities because
YouTube.
like this was just, they took everything out of service.
I see auctions all the time. Ambulance services go out. There's a Facebook group, used ambulances something. They sell used ambulances and stuff, but a lot of times they'll have equipment too.
Like I got the chairs that you take down the
Oh,
steps.
yeah.
Stair chairs?
Okay, I
Yeah.
couldn't remember what
Yeah.
they're called.
Stair chairs.
41
I have a
minutes.
question.
Mm-hmm.
So, moving into the
7.
can't get to the doctor thing,
Right.
I
you've
mean,
got
if not, it's watched
him,
hours.
stabilized and all that stuff. How quickly does that bone start healing? How quickly, how long does that whole process need to take? Is it
So
just
many
a-
variables with that because what type of health is the patient?
Yeah,
Number one. Is it a young kid, a healthy adult, or is it an elderly person?
I don't know, are you?
They have osteoporosis. You know, are they healthy? Do they have existing medical
May not
problems?
be high enough.
So many
to be-
different variables. A healthy adult
But if we're
A tib fib break. would be
start
fine.
healing.
Okay,
If you
and that's
get
kinda where we
this
were.
and
I
say
mean,
we
if you're
put
worried about
in
femur fracture,
more of a
you're
cast,
still-
right?
My knee
And we
is right
cast
there.
that up
Yeah.
to where it's not gonna move. It's gonna start to heal. The body starts healing pretty quickly, right? And those bones will slowly, but how long do most people wear a cast for?
So, I get a little.
6-8 weeks, right? And then they have to take it easy after they take the cast off. A lot of times it's a soft splint too, right?
Right.
And that's what we're gonna talk about, that prolonged care, what we're gonna do. But we talked about our initial treatment, after we splint it would be ice, right? How long are we gonna ice that? You may do that ice again in 3 hours. You may do it every 3 hours for a couple of days. You'll let them rest at night because they're sleeping. We're not,
Thank you.
Don't wanna wake them up the next day.
Oh, come on
We
now.
may
You know
be
you weren't
due
going. You're
2 or 3
weird.
rounds of that 20 on, 20 off to reduce the swelling, and do that for a few days, and then we may transfer to heat therapy. Especially if we've taken the splint off. We think, I don't think it's broke, I think it's got a bad sprain, right? And then we're gonna start doing some physical therapy. Stretching, moving, building that muscle back up, getting that movement back, because that sprain, you've got that injury, what are those muscles doing? You haven't moved them, right? So what are those muscles naturally gonna do when they're not used?
Atrophy or something?
Yeah, they're gonna kind of tighten up and everything, and they're gonna be real tight, so when you go to do it, that's why you see people limping after a cast and stuff for a while, is because the muscles are tight. And it's gonna hurt a little bit, right? Oh, I'm gonna baby it, I'm gonna baby it. No, we gotta stretch it out, it's gonna hurt a little bit. You may have to stretch somebody out, you know? Stretch that foot, manipulate it a little bit, and you do it to a point where it really kind of starts to hurt. You stop, hold it for 3 seconds, bring it back, rest, deep breath, do it again. You may do that 10 times, right? You may have them get up, and we'll have them put their weight down on it a little bit, go till there's pain, stop, same thing. In the back, go till it's pain, because we're stretching all those muscles around. Out. We don't want to overstretch them. We don't want to cause more pain or more damage, but we're stretching that muscle because we're rehabbing, right?
Right.
And that's where we get into that prolonged care, because that sprain may take 3, 4 weeks before they're really mobile, able to go out and walk around. They may be hobbling around. So what's another piece of equipment? May not be a bad idea to have at the homestead. Crutches.
And the wheelchair.
Yeah, and
And a
the
walker.
100-year-old wheelchair.
A walker too.
A walker, exactly.
And
Can you
don't
buy
buy
those
insurance.
things? You go to Walmart right now and buy crutches and a walker
Well,
and a wheelchair. I've seen them, they got them up on the shelf. Do you have to get the fancy little wheelchair? No, but if you think that may be something you need, you can afford, why not get it? And that's things you don't think about. What if somebody does break their leg?
well, you saw my crutches downstairs.
Yeah, you can't get to medical care for 2-3 weeks or whatever's going on.
Right.
Do you think that wheelchair would be helpful to get somebody around in the house? You know? I mean, I know you're thinking, shit, that's another thing I'm gonna have to buy if I'm gonna need. But what
Actually,
works
I'm
for
sitting
you?
here thinking, like, on the roller coaster yard sale, you go through there and people will have a loved one that passed away and they got all that equipment set up.
Hospital beds.
And you
You're
can
gonna
buy
set
that
up a
stuff
clinic
cheap.
at your
Right,
house?
you can
How
find
many
it on-
times? Marketplace, all those
Yeah.
places that you can go and do that, but you've gotta think about, what am I gonna do? And it goes back to, remember what we talked about early on yesterday, medical intelligence. Plan for what you need, right? It's just like for your food. You're stacking your food, you're putting back your food, even your garden in the summer, you're doing all those things, right? So you're planning, well, we'll eat this fresh, I'm gonna can this, I'm gonna do this, hey, I'm gonna need this much, even when you're planting your garden, I wanna get through the winter, I'm gonna need this much green beans, this much, right?
Right.
It's the same thing with this. It's medical intelligence. You're planning what you're going to need. All right, if I'm going to be stuck for this long, my family has this. Now we need to talk about kids, right? They make shorter SAM splints. But how do we get this to fit a kid?
You just fold, well, you
Got
can
it.
tie it, but you can fold it, right?
Right. You can fold it because double does what?
Just-
Double the rigidity, right?
Right.
So, you know, we've got all that, and that's why I said, even when we talk about immobilizing the shoulder, you could actually wrap this around the shoulder like this. So, say we have an injury to our upper arm like this.
Right.
Would it be best to immobilize the whole arm? Yeah, because if we move this, move your arm like this. Put your elbow in against you. Move your arm left and right. Where do you feel? Right here, right?
Yeah.
So we want to immobilize this whole thing. So we may take a SAM splint around, or we may take sling and swath, tie this off, even with an ace bandage around. But if we have to keep it that way for a long time, are they going to be comfortable with this? We may do this initially to reduce the pain and everything, and we get to manage. So now we're going to manage care. We're going to manage the injury. So then we got to think about, we got to transition from this to a sling and swath, right? And because we want to keep this, because if we could tie this here, this arm's going to do this.
Right.
Literally, put your arm next to you and do this. Where do you feel moving at? Do you feel it up your arm?
Mm-hmm.
Can you feel? That's what I mean. So now, and what's this doing? The weight of your lower arm.
Pulling.
Right. Right. So the whole thing, we want to keep this arm immobilized. Now, if it's one of your kids, they're going to be happy. No, but you know what? We're also going to plan for activities and stuff to keep them right. Even today, kid hurts their arm, it's going to be immobilized. You can go to the doctor. They said he's got to stay home for a few days. He can't go to school. Your kid's arm's immobile. What are you going to do? He's going to be restless, right? He or she's going to be restless. You're going to find things for them to do to keep them entertained. Yeah, you've got the TV, but what if there's no TV? Have the games, have the toys, have whatever. That's also managing care. It's keeping your patient happy. Now, how are we going to bathe?
Sponge bath.
Can they get in and take a shower if we have water? No. So they may not be able to, right? Especially if we have an open wound, right? So then we've got to go this, or you may have to help them. Are you prepared to do that? You'll probably do it for a kid. You won't think twice about it, right? What if your plan is you've got Uncle Harry staying with you?
Jason, Uncle Harry.
Oh, I would do.
Right? Are you prepared for that? Is that part of your plan? That's managing care. Patient, that person has to be clean, right? They may not be able to do it themselves. They may not be able to do it traditional way. Now, if they've got another arm, you may be able to set it up here. Here's a sponge, here's soap. Go at it, Uncle Harry. I'm touching you. You're Uncle Harry for a reason, right? So those are the things we've got to make. That is managing care. And you've got to think about, do I have enough supplies? What if this rips? Do you think this could rip pretty easy after a while?
Yeah.
Sure. It's $2. Now, can you go out and buy a sling, a shoulder immobilizer, a true one, like they would give you at the hospital for that injury?
Cut one out of a sheet.
You can. You can use a sheet, a pillowcase, tie an old pillowcase. So it just depends on what you want to spend and what you want to be prepared for. But what is the likelihood at your homestead if you can't get traditional medical care of an arm injury, of a child or a family member that's going to be there with you? Significant. Or an ankle injury. And you've got to think too, okay, if Jason hurts his ankle, he can't get when he's immobile, what's his wife and kids going to have to do?
All
Here,
their chores.
those animals don't care if his ankle's hurt, right?
Yep.
But if he can't get out to feed them, is your family prepared to do that? Believe it or not, that's part of management of care. Who's going to take over? You've got to think and plan and have contingencies for it. Now, is that direct medical care? Absolutely not. But we have to think about the long-term effects of what it's going to be. And how are we going to move Jason around? We can't just stick him in the corner. There you go.
Drew.
See you in 6 weeks when your ankle's better and you can get up and move. Right? How easy would that walker or wheelchair be then? And like you said, does it have to be a brand new, shiny? No. But what could you do? Yard sales, marketplace, stuff like that, you know. And that's when you can find, Jason was telling me, what was it you bought and you offered the guy Mountain House stuff, right?
Yeah.
You got a bunch of Mountain House cans. Somebody was selling them, get rid of them, but they were what, 50% off?
Yeah, they're 50% off, and I told him, I was like, I want to buy everything you got, bring it out, and I got it all at like 25% of cost.
So you go to a yard sale. Why do people have yard sales? Get rid of junk, right? They want to make a little money off of it, worth their time. So if you go, look, I'll take that wheelchair, those crutches, that porta potty, because would a porta potty be important?
Yes.
We don't think about that. That's management of care, right? Because if somebody's going to be stuck in a room or in bed because they've got a broken leg and we can't get them out, we need to have that there, and it's too hard to get them to the bathroom.
Maybe even a bedpan.
Bedpan, urinal. Do we think about that? Because a urinal is going to come into play here in just a little bit. Right after we're done with the Snickers bar, Jason. So, all of those things we've got to think about. All right, for management care. And this is just goes through splinting and broken bones.
Well, and a lot of times when you have injuries like that, you have to deal with depression and stuff like that.
Right,
too.
they're going to be bored out of their minds to have books, because if we don't have the electric or we don't have that stuff, we have to think about. And they're not moving around. They're going to get colder easier. They're not going to eat as much, and they're going to be depressed, so they may not want to eat. You may have to, you got to eat something. Drink some water. Stay hydrated, because we have to keep them healthy. Why? Healing.
Heal. Yeah.
Can an unhealthy body heal?
No.
No. All those vitamins, that energy, that glucose, all those things promote that healing. That's how that bone's going to heal quicker.
Protein on the hoof.
Right. But somebody's got to take care of that protein on the hoof if the main person who does it every day is not there. So those are all other contingency things. But yeah, go to those yard sales and think about when you go to that yard sale.
Tell
Somebody
Whitney
selling
if
a
you're out
wheelchair. I don't
commission,
want
I'll
to
come process a bond.
snatch that thing up. $5, I'll give you $5 right now. Most people are going to go, just get it out of my driveway. You know what I mean? That's what they want. They want it out of the space that they're clearing out. Get the walker, all those things, and just, if you see a bunch, how much for all of them? Give me a deal. I'll take every single bit of it out of your driveway right now. What would you do if you were selling?
Sure thing.
Give them a deal. Get it out of here.
I'm thinking about all the equipment we had before my mom went in a nursing home, and me and my brother just got rid of all of it.
Yeah.
Like, we had all the things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we don't think about it then in the moment, right? But if you're able to store it, and just like you do, you have a group in this undisclosed location, right? We're not going to tell YouTube world where Jason lives. We're in our undisclosed secret bunker.
200 feet underground.
That's right, 200 feet underground.
What's Porterhouse's address again?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. All these things we don't think about, but if you've got a group and maybe you have a central area to store stuff because you're going to have a clinic, because you're all going to fall back to one spot, or a certain spot within your geographical area, your designated clinic, store all that stuff there, right? Have it. So that way if you do need it, oh, so-and-so sprained their ankle, we're going to need a wheelchair for a few days, you can go get it, right?
Yep.
And it's just promoted.
And the medical history too. Are you gonna hit on that in a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody that comes to your place,
Mm-hmm.
hard copy of that.
Absolutely, part of your group. I've got and I'll email that to you. I've actually got a medical questionnaire that you can give out to everybody. And you protect that information, but isn't that important to have? One of the teams I was with that I was a medic for, we had thumb drive. I had a thumb drive. Everybody's information on it. And I had multiple copies, little cheap thumb drives, multiple copies. And then I even went to the fact of just the regular team members. I had a thumb drive for each team member. Because you know what I could do? What's their medical history? If they're unconscious, hand it to the hospital. You've got that. You may be able to fire up the computer, but have hard copies of those things too.
We have a comment on the live video. Juliet Romeo wants to know, what are your thoughts on a single pole traction device?
A single pole tracking device? You mean like this?
And we'll do that after lunch.
Yeah,
eat
we're gonna
it.
do this after
Well,
lunch. We're gonna put this stuff on. This is a single pole traction device. What are my thoughts on it? I've got two here that we're all gonna train on. That should tell you my thoughts on them.
And I'm gonna get one, cause I think they're really good.
How much
This
are
is
they?
absolutely, because a mid-shaft femur fracture, the only way that you're gonna be able to relieve it is through traction.
How much
It's
is
pulling
it?
less than 200 bucks. Jake, if you're watching, shoot me a message. Tell me if you have any. We can look it up, but I mean, there's several. They're less than $200. Some are over $200. You know, it depends on what you want.
Yeah.
I'm fairly certain this $150 range. I don't remember what brand the other one was. I've got two. I take them everywhere with me. In any event, they're always with me because somebody gets a femur fracture. You want to relieve that pain. They're screaming, and it's amazing to watch. You're pulling that traction, and that bone comes. You'll know when it goes back because with the muscle, you can see the muscles in the leg just tightening up, and those muscles are just quivering because it hurts because there's so much trauma done to that because it's the largest bone in your body, your largest straight bone in the body, strongest bone in the body. So obviously, that's why we go to that assessment. Well, they broke that bone. I know they don't have any type of osteoporosis or any bone disease or anything like that. They're a pretty healthy individual. It took a lot of force to break that, right? So then we have to think to the back of our mind, could there be other injuries? But that's going to be a major injury. So that's an emergency. That automatic, today, right now, you went out, broke your femur, ambulance came to you to the hospital, automatic trauma alert. You're going to be at least a level 2 trauma.
Just because of how much it takes to break that bone.
Sure. Big bone. And if it's a simple mid-shaft femur fracture, could it heal on its own if you get it back straight? Yeah, but you're going to have to keep that traction device on for a long time. I really don't know because I don't know of any studies where that's been done or anything. I know that when you go in the hospital, they may do surgical intervention and they may keep your leg in traction for a while. While you're in there, they do the same thing, so I would assume it could do that, but I don't have data on long term of keeping that on. What if it did?
88.75 for that one.
How much?
88.75.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
that ain't bad.
No. So less than $100. Is it worth it?
EP-810. I took a picture of the part number.
So yeah, I think it's well worth it.
Around there. This is just a side of it. Didn't care.
Trying to bring up any comments.
There wasn't too many.
So these things are vitally important for the fact of we need to bones breaking hurts. But we're going to have to rehab them. So what are some other things you can think of that you could do that. Sorry, I don't want to hear myself on the place. What are things that you could think of for long-term care? What are some concerns?
Infection.
It's an open, yeah. Could there be an infection on the inside?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
during our assessment and reassessment each day of the patient, makes a good point. What should we be doing as part of our assessment?
You should be checking temperatures.
Yep.
If they have a fever, you
Right.
should be feeling that area, see if it's hot.
And here's where we go with something now. Urine.
Yeah.
We're gonna look at pee, folks. We're gonna measure pee. If somebody's sick and they're infected, we wanna know their output. So even if we're not collecting their urine, when they go to the bathroom, you need to ask them, what's your pee look like? Because that can tell us a lot. Color of urine is are they hydrated properly? A light yellow tint. Does it smell? Well, yeah, all urine smells, but does it
But
smell
it's not
different?
bad.
Is it strong? What's it smell like? What's it look like? I want to look at it. Do we got little floaty things going around in it, right? Have you ever looked at pee? Have you ever done a urine sample and looked at your own urine? Man, I've seen people, we used to do a drug test, they threw me urine, I went, well, I'm not worried about the drug test right now. How about we get some water in you? Because, I mean, it would be like damn near dark red.
Piss and sand.
Yeah, construction workers. I mean, pound them Red Bulls. All right? You know, here, I gotta cut that. This electrical tape will help. We've got to look at the pee because what does that tell us? Output tells us a lot. Kidneys tell us a lot. Function tells us a lot. That's going to tell us if there's an infection, right? Because fever does what?
It produces what, white blood cells or something to kill the infection.
Well, fever does, it helps fight, but with that fever, also, you're hot. So if your body's unnaturally hot, what's it going to do? What does heat do? Sucks moisture, right?
Yeah.
Dehydrates. So if our urine is dark and has an odor, but it's clear, but it's a very dark yellow, dark, dull color, we're dehydrated. If it's brownish yellow, we're really dehydrated. Should be a faint yellow tint. If it's completely clear, they're overhydrated. And believe it or not, that can be a serious medical problem. So we want to look at, when we're looking at that long-term care, if we're worried about infections, things like that. So you're right, long-term, even though it's a broken bone and it's healing, we've got to look for infection. It may not even have been an open break, but we need to do that. And we need to look for those things. Now, the other thing is, we want to give them over-the-counter pain medicine, all right? We're going to give them the Tylenol or the ibuprofen. How much ibuprofen should we give them?
There has been a time that I've taken 800 milligrams of ibuprofen for
That's fine.
cramps.
No, you
So
can.
you can
That's
give
the
them- I know you
maximum
can go
dose,
to
and
that
that's what
much.
you're going to give them is 800,
Yeah.
which is 4 caplets, because ibuprofen is usually 200 milligrams, the over-the-counter. Now, what if it's a child? Do we give them 800 milligrams?
No.
Put it on their size, like Jason's son. He's how old?
7.
7.
But
Probably
he's the size
4
of a 9-year-old.
Probably 4 to 600. 600 for an adult is a dose for anti-inflammatory. 800 is if you want the maximum pain, you know, with that anti-inflammatory. But what does ibuprofen do? Have you ever taken it on an empty stomach?
Oh, that's what you're
Rough, right?
Yeah.
So long term, what do you think it's going to do? If you read on the bottles of all that over-the-counter medication, what does it say? But nobody knows because you've never bothered to read
It'll
it.
take more than a few days.
A few days worth, right? A lot of
Prolonged
medication. It's for
use.
short term.
Prolonged use.
Yeah. Is that pain going to go away in a few days as a break is healing or a severe sprain?
Good where you switch up.
You can switch up, you can alternate, and then at some point in time, you got to say enough's enough. Too hard on the stomach, too hard on the liver, too hard on the kidneys. You got to keep those things healthy. And that's what we don't know. That's what we don't think about. Oh, I could take Tylenol every day for 1,000 days. That's how much I've got. Well, you won't live long enough to do that if you take Tylenol every day. Your liver's going to be destroyed. So, what you want to do is keep healthy. At some point, we've got to evaluate risk versus reward. And we've got to look at, we're evaluating our patient. Okay, how's your pain feel? And they're going to tell you. somebody's gonna take, especially you get somebody who doesn't like taking pills. Now, pain's not that bad. I'm okay. They'll be able to tolerate. They'll get used to it. They'll be able to tolerate it a little better. So we can cut off that medication. Or maybe they're only taking it once a day. You can slowly wean them off that. Not saying they're going to be addicted to ibuprofen or anything. I'm not really sure if you can be addicted, but maybe you can. I'm sure somebody has some sort of weird chemical thing where they have to have ibuprofen. But I've never heard of it. But we're going to wean them off so we can be healthy. And then what can we do? Is there some natural pain relievers? Wild lettuce? I don't know a lot about it. This is what I'm learning. I'm now a student of looking at herbal medicine and stuff. But do you think that would be a good idea to take a class on herbal medicine? I'm trying to set up to where I can go take one and learn. I'm actually learning from people who do this. But that may even be worth going to a conference, going somewhere. Who's the guy? There's a guy at Self-Reliance did one of them in the last year. I think he did some stuff on some herbal plants for herbal medicine.
I know there was a guy that had a booth set up there.
Yeah.
Selling stuff.
Yeah.
He may have talked about it.
Why not talk to this?
There's actually a big conference that happens in the spring in Knoxville, Tennessee every year.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
some guy that wrote a book that's like, he's like the godfather of herbal
Yeah.
medicine or whatever, and it's that festival is like named after him. I want to say it's in March or something like that. A woman that was at the Back to the Land festival, she was telling us about it. I have the information at home. I don't have it with me. I want to say his name was Fred something. I'm not sure. But
Well,
it's a big conference.
Maybe
festival
somebody in
thing.
YouTube world can give us names of somebody, people.
The wild lettuce, the lady I bought mine from that makes it, she will not sell you more than a 2-ounce bottle at a time. She said if you took 2 ounces of the wild lettuce, she said you would sleep for like 3 days. She said if you took over it, she said you would go to sleep and never wake up.
And that's what we're going to talk about also here in a little bit is with the prolonged care, different uses for different things. Like Benadryl. What do we use Benadryl?
Allergy.
Allergies.
It
What's
also
Benadryl
puts
do
me
to
sleep.
most people?
It puts me to sleep.
Yeah, when I remember as a kid, my mom found out the hard way. We're going on a trip, going to the beach. Oh, we'll get the kids some Benadryl because they'll sleep. They won't be a while and they can sleep right through. Guess what Benadryl does to me? Opposite effect.
Yeah, there are some people that do.
Tylenol PM does the exact same thing to me. Somebody gave me Tylenol PM one time. I was awake for 36 straight hours. All right? So, that's the other things we can think of is, just like we discovered with the SAM splint, triangular bandage, multiple uses for something. Tylenol or Benadryl can be used as a mild sedative. Right? Wild lettuce. I didn't know that. Learn something new. It's a mild sedative. What if we want somebody to rest? Would it be a good idea to stock up on some melatonin? Natural, not going to hurt. Right? Somebody breaks their leg and hey, you need to rest. Your body needs to rest. They're hurting because the pain's going to hurt. Here, take some melatonin too, so you can sleep. Because when your body rests, that promotes healing. Your body's so relaxed, right? You're not stressing. Your brain's not going a million miles an hour. You're getting that blood pressure up. You're like, oh my God, I broke my leg. Who's going to feed the chickens? Who's going to take care of the sheep? Who's going to take care of the cow? Right? Real life. Here, melatonin 99.
And it sucks feeding all animals when you're hurt, when your gout's acting up, and you can't walk in your ankle.
Sure.
It blows.
And you may have long-term effects from that. Cold may be an effect that may start hurting you. You're going to know when it rains. Oh, it's going to be raining here in a little bit. I'm hurting here. I'm hurting there. You're going to see that. Because what's the that change in atmospheric pressure, right?
Yeah.
So,
It affects my knees when it gets cold.
Yeah. yeah, you may experience that. So you've got to think about those long-term effects for prolonged care. It's we're taking care of somebody, just like I was talking about. We want to look for infection. There's different ways to look. If we don't have, are you going to be able to do blood work at home? Are you going to be able to do a urinalysis at home? No. You can look at that thing because guess how they did it before there was all that fancy equipment. There were doctors, right? They looked up. They were looking at it. They see floaties, color, taste.
Growing Generations Homestead said that they use herbal medicine because they're allergic to antibiotics. And they said Aldezia is just like Benadryl, even topical. It's made from the mimosa flowers.
thank you, Growing Generations Homestead. Learn something new. That's worth writing down. That's worth having as I'm trying to learn. Why do I want to learn this? There's a perfect reason.
Well, let me tell you something. If you're building a food forest, mimosas, that's what we have on our property. Mimosas are nitrogen fixers. So you put them in the middle of your food forest, and then you have these flowers that are coming out. that you can make
Billy
them
talked
texture.
about that, didn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember one of these
Yes.
things, Billy Bond, yeah, he talked about that. So
But
for
they pull
permapastures.
nitrogen out of the atmosphere
Right,
and put it into
right.
the
And I
land.
think-
Yeah.
I think John Willis planted some too, I think, in his food forest for some
They
reason. That-
planted some nitrogen fixtures.
Yeah, they planted some sort of nitrogen fixtures. I'm almost thinking
But in
maybe he
Kentucky,
did in mimosas, but
In Kentucky, we have mimosas and red buds that grow prolifically
So-
everywhere. Like and they're both nitrogen fixers.
that would be a great idea to have, right? And the reason I am going looking at the herbal medicine route and stuff, because I got all great drugs, do all that stuff that fixes stuff. What if you don't have it? What if you have somebody who's allergic to all antibiotics and stuff? It's rare to find. Here we go.
Yeah.
How am I going to help them if I'm the one that's responsible for medical care for people, for a group or something,
Right.
or for my family? So that's great information to have. And just like you talked about, she's got the food for us, so here's somebody you can go to and go, how do I plant this stuff? What do I do? How do I take care of it? She's doing it right now. It's just planning, because then you need something and somebody can't take antibiotics or you don't have it and you need some sort of a topical Benadryl for rash. Well, you can walk right out of your house, pick that up and do it. You can make tinctures and all the other different stuff, you know, the comfrey salve that Billy Bond makes. So that stuff is great. I want to learn how to make that.
Oh,
They
that's
say-
super
And I
easy to
think
make.
Nate with Special Operations with what is it, Two Chicks Homestead, I think is their channel and stuff. I think they make it too.
They say the comfort salve, they call it the bone stitch, because it'll heal bone.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can
put that on there, and that's what I was getting ready to go. The comfrey salve is one of those things that you could have. That all those different things, just like what we talked about earlier with wound stuff, honey. You know, you got to think about these alternate things because we plan for contingencies, right? What happens when we run out of antibiotics? We run out of Benadryl. We run out of these things. You could say, yeah, I'm gonna. You could be Jason, and just buy it every time and have big stock of it, which is great. But what if you don't?
Right.
You've got a contingency. Or what if you don't want to give away your stock? And you've got other people come in, you've got the mimosa that you can do. See what I mean?
You can make calendula salve, and it's just like Neosporin. You can put it on
Yeah.
rashes or burns or
There's
whatever.
all kinds of plants.
Yeah.
It's amazing when you really start getting. I mean, I knew about some and some things, but really when you start looking around, and even just different parts of the country, different things that are growing in those climate areas and stuff, it's amazing what you can come up with as alternates. You know, and I think that's really important, and that's what I'm going to start. That's going to be my change this year. I'm going to start growing some of this stuff, and with the herbs I grow year round, I want to grow this stuff because I have an area inside that I've sort of turned into a greenhouse that I can do that and have some of this stuff to do that and start playing with because it is important. And you know,
Look at even when you have minor supply shortages like we do in certain
Sure.
areas now, you can't find children's cough medicine to save your life.
I would have to look up right now what medications are on the shortage list because she'll tell you from the ER it changes. The FDA puts it changes all the time. And even when I'm working on EMS, we would have shortages of certain medications, and they would approve something or approve the use of something that we normally wouldn't do. So it'll make up for that medication. Like yours, D50 was short, and that's what we give. It's 50% dextrose. Somebody's low blood sugar, we start an IV, shoot it to them, they couldn't get it. So then we were using D10, D25. What we used to use, if you remember ever watching Emergency, they hung a bag of D5W, right? Well, D5W is 5% dextrose, right? It's in a mixture in an IV. I used it when I first started, first became paramedic. We went away with it. It's mostly saline and ringers. Started using D5. I noticed on people were like, I put that on, run a slow drip, how it would bring them up. It didn't have that same effect as D50 where they would go really low to super high all of a sudden. It would just gradually bring them up. They felt better, sicker, it was easier. And it worked much quicker than I realized. So you start seeing these alternate things of doing that makes you think, why not have mimosa? Why not have these things to grow that you can make natural things?
Growing Generations just commented that kudzu is one of the strongest things you can give for headaches
Yep.
in a tincture
Yep.
or a tea, and that's like, okay, Growing Generations, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're driving down the road and you see like there's like lines of trees and you see an invasive vine that looks kind of like a grape leaf that's like covering a mile down, that's kudzu.
Yeah.
And that stuff,
All over southeast Kentucky.
yeah, you can't hardly get rid of it. Sometimes you can get goats. Goats will eat it or whatever. But just think of all of the stuff that you could make. Just go picking that off, someplace on the side of the road. I don't think anybody would care if you started ripping that crap out,
Okay. So, to wrap some of this up that we're going to talk about, we're going to break for lunch in about 15 minutes. And then we're going to come back after lunch, try to make lunch sort of quick today. And we're going to come back and we're actually going to really talk into wound care. I want to get into long-term wound care. How we're going to clean and flush the long-term care of. And then what do we do? Are we going to close it or not? But all these things that we're talking about, you've got to think about long-term care. Did you ever think about you may have to measure somebody's output, their peak? If you're taking care of them, they're sick. Are you prepared to do that?
I think about I've done that with children. Like when my kids have been sick, and the doctor wants to know that stuff, but you don't think about doing it with adults,
You may, if you're taking care of a loved one, you need to know what their output is.
Yeah.
You need to know, are their kidneys working? Is their liver working? Why? Because if the kidneys start to shut down, what's going to happen?
They're not gonna go.
They're going to shut down.
Yeah.
Affects all the body, because what do the kidneys do?
Filter the blood.
Giant filters, and they move out stuff.
So what's
Right.
normal output for just a normal adult? Or, what should that
35
be?
mLs an hour.
35 mLs an hour.
Yep. 35
About
mLs an hour.
About
It
that.
can vary a little bit between what their medical history is, age, things like that. But 35 mLs an hour is what you're looking for. Now, we know they're not going to be constantly peeing, right?
Right.
So you do a little bit of math. If they haven't peed in 4 hours and they pee, you see how many mLs their output was, and it should be around 35 times 4, right? Around that. If they're properly hydrating, if they're drinking water, and that's the thing. And I know, I'm sure I'm getting ready to get a bunch of comments. The sports drinks, like the Red Bulls and Pops and all that, it's horrible for them. And that's what people do. And I'm talking as wherever my coffee is. I drink a shit ton of coffee, but I back it up. I drink a lot of water with it because I know coffee's bad for me, but you don't want me to be around without coffee, all right? So I'm just being honest, and I do, but I drink a lot of water with it because I know I need to hydrate my body. And I do. I know it sounds funny, but I'll go pee and I'll look at it and I'm like, ooh, I'm a little behind the curve. Just by the color, I know. And even sometimes the odor, right? It's like you'll notice that odor. So I know I've got to drink water. And make sure of it. Every morning I get up, I drink a full bottle of water.
Another thing that just popped in my head about urine, in college, I had a teacher taught my health class. And
Speaking of coffee,
he said that his son was like, I don't know, 7 years old, and he's in the bathroom shaving. His son gets up and comes in there and uses the bathroom while he's in there shaving, and he said it smelled horrible, like the smell of it. He took him to the doctor because like does medical stuff or what. He was like, that's not right.
Right.
Takes him to the doctor. He has type 1 diabetes.
Yeah.
And like that was the indicator, was that
it is.
it was
It
super
is.
strong
So,
smell.
that's the thing is managing also. We've got to think about how are we going to manage chronic illness long term.
Or how are you even gonna be able to tell?
Yeah. Diabetes type 1 is usually diagnosed around that age or sooner. And they're with it the rest of their life. So how do you manage that? Do you have enough insulin? No insulin, guess what's going to happen to them?
Yeah.
They're going to die. Talk to your doctors. Have that stop. Have that whatever you got to do. Right? I'm not going to say what I do on here on YouTube. you gotta think about this long-term proximity to COPD, right? Very common with the elderly, right? You may have elderly family member, and you can start seeing COPD around in the 50s, right? So you've gotta think about management. Yeah, how are you gonna keep yourself healthy? You may not think about that, but that is medical care. That's long-term care. You've gotta keep yourself healthy. So you've got to think about diet and stuff like that. You've got to think about all these things. Do you have clean water? Do you have sanitation? All that when all these systems fail in some sort of disaster scenario or whatever it is, are you prepared for that?
I operate on a daily basis without pain because I take biologic injections every 3 months.
What happens when they stop?
Starts hurting.
Yeah.
The psoriasis comes back heavier on skin that in places that I
What
don't
are you
have.
going to do? Does anybody take medication on a regular, every day here?
Yeah, I take blood pressure. My blood pressure goes.
So you got to think about that, and what are some natural remedies that would help? You see all this stuff, and I've never tried it, but I should. I should see if it works, right? Like
Better
I
not.
wasn't like all the salves before that. Till I tried the comfrey salve. Billy gave me some.
It's better to know now than when you need it.
Man, I tried that, and I was like, all right, I was wrong. I should start listening to this stuff. It works.
Yep.
It's great stuff.
We'll be back later, YouTube land. How do I stop this?
I'm not stressing.
This is a.
I think it's bottom left.